How are you today? So, fucking, I kind of just want to talk a bit about, well, obviously we're doing a deaf creator spotlight for our, is this 29? Oh, damn, we made it. I got back on track. There was like, two shakes of lamb's tail ago. I was like, yeah, I'm like 10 videos behind, but let's see if I catch up. I did it. Fucking, anyway, but I wanted to talk a little bit about deaf representation today before we talk about our creators today. And today we're going to be talking about Christine Sun Kim. I am so sorry if I'm not saying that right. We're going to be talking about Hermon and Heroda. And we're going to be talking about Rikki Poynter. And we're going to be talking about why they're so important for deaf representation and creators like them. And for me to wind that back just a little bit, let's take this to my childhood. For me growing up, like, yeah, I was growing up in a mixed deaf and hearing family, but this was before internet. This is before we were all connected through technology in the way we are now. And so my deaf experience was also limited to my family. And what I knew about deafness and deaf identity was limited to how us deaf were treated by the family, right? It wasn't until I got access to internet that I was able to see, oh, there's a possibility of a different way of life. And then I was able to go meet people outside of my family that were deaf. And I was able to go see other deaf, um, I was able to understand other deaf perspectives. So, what I'm trying to say is, like the first half of my life, I lived without understanding what other deaf perspectives were like because I only knew my own life and I only understood how I was treated and how other deaf people in my family was treated. And I was only understanding what was being told to me in the control primarily of hearing people, right? It wasn't until I got out of that I was able to be in spaces where we're having deaf led conversations on deafness. Um, and so that is why I think it's so important, to have these um, conversations and to also be following other deaf people and to immerse yourself within deaf community to be able to expose yourself to as many perspectives as possible is to understand what we all go through as a collective along with our individual journeys, how it all connects, and what is accessibility for us, and how we can advocate and um, do better as a community. Um, and so that's what I like about the creators I'm showing you today is by each of them sharing their story and then me finding them online. Eventually, I actually found out about Christine Sun Kim and Hermon and Heroda about four-ish or so years ago. And then I came across Rikki Poynter in the last year or so. And so these three are actually newer people for me in my deaf journey. Some of the older people would have been Warren Wawa Snipe and Definitely Dope and Deafwood Attitude. Those are people I came across earlier on in my deaf journey um, in terms of connecting with other perspectives through the internet. And um, fucking yeah, man. But just seeing how they advocate for themselves, how they share their story, how they share their journey, it is part of what I believe gives me like where I would have felt and think things before but not say it because none of the people understood what I was going through and they would all dismiss me. Like now I feel more confident in what I say. Like, for example, I used to be friends with this hearing person who would tell me that I'm 90% right about deafness, that um, I don't that I'm kind of right about deafness, but I'm not, and that she knows more than me because she teaches disabled people. And I'm just like, ew, right? Ew, fucking disgusting. And at the time, I wanted to fit in so badly. Like, this was someone who I met when I was 12 years old, and they were older than me. They were my brother's friend, and I wanted to like, I didn't understand being outside of this community, and so this was all I knew. And so they would always basically put it in my head like if I just didn't agree with them, then it was me who wasn't capable of having relationships and it was my fault for not being a better friend, is what they would basically tell me whenever I tried to inform them how what they were saying about deafness was harmful. Um, and that's how most hearing people treat me. And it gets to where, like, I have exhaustion too. I cannot go correct every hearing person. I can't put myself through that. And when I choose to do so, it's because I fucking believed in you. Sometimes, or it might you. Sometimes it's just not the day, and I'm just like, well, this ain't your day. This ain't the day to do this to me, and then just But usually, if I try to have a conversation with you, it's because I thought you would do better. And most of the time, I get disappointed, and it used to be where I'm like disappointed and let down, and now I just expect it because of how often it's occurred to where if someone actually does the right thing with caring about deaf issues, I'm just like, oh wow, wow, find an outlier. Here we go. You know what I mean? Um, but anyway, fucking so when we conclude, I'm gonna wrap up showing you a bit of photos of me and my sister because I just kind of want to share that in a minute too. We'll talk about that in a second. Um, and I have two sisters. And so I am going to share photos with my twin today, but I don't want my other sister to feel like she's not just as important to me. She is. It's I just wanted to specifically talk about twin identity for a second though, in a minute too. And we'll talk about how this all connects. Okay. Fucking all right, I'm going to roll my intro. And then let's do this damn bitch. We're going to start with Christine. Hi, my name is Lexi, aka Deaf Child. I'm born deaf, hard of hearing. My team was one of the top teams between 2020 and 2024 in New Orleans and Louisiana. I began doing business as Deaf Child in 2013, marketing 2011, and sales 2009. I've earned 50 plus certifications in marketing and sales, and I have my Bachelor of Science from Loyola University, New Orleans, with a music industry studies major and a business administration minor. Visit my site at noladeafchild.com. Alrighty, so Christine Sun Kim is a deaf advocate, a deaf thought leader. She is of Korean descent, um, and she shares a lot of her journey just in Deafhood as an artist, as a content creator. Um, and she will also share, like, for here, for example, um, she's sharing photos of her family. And so you get a mix of various cultural perspectives from her. You will get, I'm saying her without thinking about it. I actually don't know Christine's pronouns. How colonial of me. I find myself doing that a lot. Fucking, so, Christine, is sharing this one photo here where it talks about sitting with feelings. Um, I am assuming that this is her grandmother, but I think that this is possibly the Korean word for grandmother. I don't know. I apologize. I don't want to use the correct words, but um, so they found an application titled Organization for the Reunification of Separated Korean Families from 1987, and it was empty, but it had her handwritten notes in the upper left corner. And it says something about how much grief she had to hold all those years, and that she misses her. Um, so yeah, fucking. So from her, you're gonna get um, a lot of information. You're going to get deaf awareness, you're going to get art, you're going to get to see different sides of culture and her family history. And here we have 60 Seconds with Christine Sloan Kim. Let's just check this out real quick. In a mute. Okay. She was saying hi to 60 Seconds with Christine Sloan Kim. She goes by CK. She's an artist. Why am I saying she? And this is me in 60 seconds. I don't know Christine's pronouns, and I keep saying she. It says, lesson learned the hard way. Playing it safe. What did you create for the Art Basel shop? They said, come by my trauma. So I made this drawing a few years ago. And these are little traumas all around the plate. And in the middle, you tell yourself it's important to stay cool. And this is titled Trauma, LOL. But I put the comma in the middle because when you have all those traumas, the comma is kind of a minute to look, respond, and then you say LOL. Your favorite sign. Metaphor. Something you change about the road. Art road, making it less white. Current obsession. I'm enrolled at TikTok University, night school. If you weren't an artist, what would you be? Club promoter. And that was me in 60 seconds. So yeah, we can find out a little bit about Christine. I'm going to put this little video in the description of the video we are checking out now. And fucking so this is what you can, get from her. I feel like you get a lot of raw emotions. And it's really interesting because for me, with artists, they don't always share the stories behind their art. Sometimes you do get to see that, but a lot of times, particularly in the capitalistic world, a lot of artists, they just put up the piece and they tell you the amount and they say, go come buy my shit, but you don't get the stories behind it. But Christine tells a lot of the stories behind their pieces, and I really feel like it's just worth following along and understanding the journey. We'll check out one more right here. This one's labeled sign language. Um, it says artist, woman. Okay, so she, her is correct. Christine Sun Kim. It looks like it is an ad, I think. Am I wrong? Oh yeah, I think it's a Calvin Klein ad. It's a really good ad, regardless of criticisms for the brand. I think that's a very good ad. So yeah. So you're gonna get a variety of content from her, and I highly recommend checking this shit out. Um, and if you're ever in her area and can go to an art exhibit, please send me photos. Wait, is it okay to take pictures at art exhibits? If it's not okay, don't do that. I don't know. I just said that without thinking about it. I just want to be supportive. I don't know, man. She's also on TikTok. She does have a bigger following on Instagram than on TikTok, but she's on TikTok too. Come get her TikTok following up. Damn. And I feel like on TikTok you get a little bit more of so Instagram is very focused on, in my opinion, some of the raw emotions and sharing that journey. And I feel TikTok I feel like she's probably gonna still be sharing that, but I can see a bit more of a lighthearted approach on TikTok as well. For if you would also like to engage in her spaces with those different energies. And then we also have the reason I wanted to talk about twin identity myself, as I understand it, is because I wanted to talk a bit about deaf twins, Hermon and Heroda. Now they are from Eritrea. I'm so sorry if I said that wrong. And they are black, they are deaf, and they know British Sign Language, actually, not American Sign Language. They live in the UK. Um, fucking, and what I like about them is they share a lot of their journey. They have shared a bit of their journey as it relates to their family story and their own family traumas, but their main focus of their content, like they will share that because they do discuss human rights, they do discuss advocacy, they do discuss social change. And then they also show joy. They show their love for fashion and design and art. And a lot of what they show is focused on how, even though they went through those dark times, they're making their own fucking light at the end of the tunnel. You know what I mean? Um, and I feel like they're very inspiring just for like anybody that's ever like, you're going through like hard shit and you just want to remember, like, you just want to see that it's possible to make it through. I feel like these are people who like having them in your feed will be those types of reminders for you, you know? And they're people who've really inspired me in the way that they don't stop, they don't let like sharing their trauma stop them also from sharing their joy. And I feel a lot of people, they will put you in this bubble as if you share the dark things happening to you and then you also share the joy, they act as if the dark things are then minimized, because if you're doing fine, then what happened to you isn't an issue, if in a way, if that makes sense. But I feel they show that just because bad things happen to you doesn't define you, but at the same time, just because you're doing well now too, or just because you're trying to do better, doesn't change the impact of what happened to you either. I feel they do good balance with like not being, how like with some people, when you go try and look for hope, you come across toxic positivity. You don't come across from good examples of, okay, this is someone I can look up to, right? But with them, I feel you get something that they're very vulnerable, but that's what makes them real. That's what makes it feel like you can connect to it, because when they share their story, it makes it, the emotions just put you through what you've been to make you feel like, okay, someone else is making it through, you can too. You know what I mean? Um, and so yeah, fucking, and then they do a lot of the twin content too to show like how they're the same but also different sometimes. So here's like an example of a recent reel they did. Let's see.
Rhoda, what? You look amazing. Thank you. But I thought we'd wear casual for dinner.
So here they're talking about like their different fashion styles, like what each one would want to go. Like, I love it, casual or glamorous. So like she's like, I thought we were going casual, but I love how she said I thought we would wear casual. But even this, in my opinion, is so gorgeous and kind of. I mean, the sweater could be perceived as casual, but the heels and the slacks, like she still looks glamorous, right? I love how even her casual is glamorous to me. Like, this is me in casual. I'm wearing my t-shirt.
This is casual to me. Casual? Yes. All right. Okay, let's go.
I love how they both look so stunning, but they're like, who's casual? They both look glamorous. One's just colorful, one's just, she looks, you know what I mean? But very different styles. I love it. But they're both gorgeous. And so, they'll get like that mix of just kind of sharing like lifestyle, lighthearted stuff. Um, and then let's see. And they do stick to a lot of that. But then here's another one. Watch this.
Are you hearing impaired?
So here it says, are you hearing impaired? And they scream and run away, right? So here they also do incorporate social advocacy into their content. And then the description of the post says, This post is for educational purpose. It's important to be aware that people who are deaf or hard of hearing may prefer to identify themselves as deaf or hard of hearing rather than hearing impaired. Hearing impaired is outdated and can be offensive to many deaf and hard of hearing people. They dislike the term because the word impaired implies something is broken or not functioning properly. This can feel negative and focus on what someone can't do rather than their strengths. The best way is to ask the person what they prefer. Use the correct term, deaf or hard of hearing. Word choice matters. Why? Oops, I read the wrong part. Deaf or hard of hearing is preferred over hearing impaired. Why? Because it focuses on their unique identities, not limitations. What are your thoughts? So yeah. Um, So their content, it's fun, it's educational, and they're gorgeous, and I love seeing them live their best life. I hope you go follow them. I hope you go support them. And they're also on TikTok. And TikTok, you get very similar of a situation. With Instagram, you also will be getting those images, and then with TikTok, you get that mix with the videos, a lot more videos too. Um, yeah, they do a lot of travel content. On top of fashion, I forgot to mention, they're very big on traveling as well. And I love getting to see them live their best life and just go out and do their thing and look good together. You know what I'm saying? And they're talking about deaf accents, right? Like people ask me all the time where I'm from, and I'm like, well, I'm from New Orleans and Mississippi. I was born in Mississippi, raised in New Orleans. And then they'll be like, but you sound different. And I'm like, yeah, that's because I'm deaf. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't understand what the deaf accent is. Um, and that's another person that you should follow, Rikki Poynter. She's also someone who speaks on what is a deaf accent and educating people on deaf issues. So her videos, she does a lot of general lifestyle content. Like she talks about um, books, she talks about social shit, she talks about accessibility and deafness and disability, and she talks about trauma. She's gone through some fucked up shit with her childhood that I don't really want to speak on. Does that sound wrong to say it like that? I'm sorry, Rikki. Um, I'm fucked up too, though, so I don't mean, so I'm self projecting also with my words. But so she's gone through some shit and she talks about that shit, you know? And so she shares a variety of things from like she'll share herself at a pumpkin patch, right? And she'll be sharing herself like thoughts on different social creators and she'll be talking about deaf issues and deaf identity. So you're going to get a variety of content from her and I highly recommend following her. And she also talks about what it's like being deaf, speaking and signing, and having a deaf accent, and how just because we speak doesn't make you any less deaf, and things like that. Um, and so, yeah, I do think that you will get a lot of interesting content from her. And I think it will just like at least make you more informed of deaf issues. You know what I'm saying? Um, and fucking with her, she's also got it, bro. She's like me too, where I have a shit ton of playlists. You know, not everybody does. You go on some people's pages, they got like two playlists. And so you can also check everything. So she's got everything from sign language to video essays, stuff about books, and oh, Vlogmas. Okay. So yeah, highly recommend following her. I really found her more on TikTok. And on TikTok, I really liked following her because when I was initially putting out and speaking out on issues in the deaf community about a year ago when I first got on TikTok, a lot of it, people that were coming across me were hearing people. And it was hearing people trying to gaslight me about deaf issues. And so Rikki's one of the first deaf people that I found on TikTok. And so um, she was one of the first people who was like all up, like also being like, nah, bitches, fuck you and you're wrong. Listen to deaf people and fuck you too. You know what I mean? So, that's why I initially started following Rikki was because of the way she advocates for deaf community. And because it made me feel like I wasn't just screeching into the void. You know what I'm saying? And that goes back to why I think it's so important that all deaf people have this type of representation where we can see ourselves out there, like in the world with others. So here's one where she talks about lip reading. Let's look at the. Oops, I just hit a button. Let's look at this lip reading video real quick for an example.
Right, so this is the part where I would say that you need to take your own advice and
Okay, so what she's responding to is a comment that says, "Why do you expect people to put effort into communicating with you when you refuse to put in the effort to communicate with them? Just use your resources like the internet to learn to lip read. People aren't just born with that skill. Everyone else had to learn how, so why do you think you're the exception? Use the internet. You're already here. Put effort into learning to read lips instead of complaining about it and wallowing in self pity. I know this is harsh, but it's something you're going to have to accept and hopefully apply to your life. I don't want to hear your excuses, so don't bother um,
you
replying. A hearing person trying to tell a deaf person they're not going to provide deaf access. Then discriminating against the deaf person for discussing why we need deaf access. And then saying, but don't bother replying to me as if you know more than we do about deafness. That itself is discrimination. This is what I've been speaking out about all along, how we are treated. I get treated like this all the time by hearing people. She gets treated like this all the time by hearing people. All deaf people get treated like this all the time by deaf people. Some deaf people get to where they start to just submit into it and they just start to believe it and go along with it because that's what's beat into their brains. But then you have the other deaf people who are just like, nope, fuck you, suck my dick, you're a piece of shit. You know what I mean? And so fucking, I really like how Rikki, she's just like, yeah, nah, I'm gonna use my platform. I'm gonna keep saying my piece. Get the fuck over it. You know what I mean? Because hearing people don't know shit. Lip reading, it's not possible. The most fucking skilled lip readers still can only get about 30% of what you say. Lip reading is not ever going to be accessible. The only thing accessible is sign language. And the only reason we don't have accessibility is because of colonialism. Before colonialism, speech and sign were used intertwined in these lands. This is a colonial concept. This is a colonizer mentality. This is oppression. This is discrimination. Can't convince me different. But let's see what else Rikki has to say.
look on the internet because then you would know that lip reading is not the way you think that it is, right? 30 to 40% of the English language can maybe be read on the lip, right? So if you went and looked and read on the internet, you would see that. You would know that. Also, deaf people have always put in more effort into making communication.
Right, deaf people, we have such a mental workload. We have to put in 10 times the effort than any hearing person on communication, always. Can't change my mind. Fuck you guys. Y'all don't put in any effort to us, and then you get mad at us when we ask you to do some bare minimum bullshit. Like, y'all really do suck dick. We're communicating in a language we can't even fucking hear you in. You don't have an excuse. You're the one without an excuse. We're the ones who don't use our deafness as an excuse not to communicate. We still communicate. You're the one who refuses to communicate with us and then acts petulant as shit about it when we try to point that out. Fuck you, bitch.
And halfway equal. More than the hearing people, always. So, right, so this is the part where I would say that you need to take your own advice and, look on the internet because then you would know that lip reading is not the way you think that it is, right? 30 to 40% of the English language can maybe be read on the lip, right? So if you went and looked and read on the internet, you would see that. You would know that. Also, deaf people have always put in more effort into making communication halfway equal. More than the hearing people. Always. So, right, so this is the part where I would say that you need to take your own advice and, look on the internet, because then you would know that lip reading is not the way you think that it is, right? 30 to 40%.
Am I out of it or is this repeating? That's my bad. I'm a little spacey. I'm just like, ugh, in my head. In your head. Oopsie. I don't know what the fuck I just did. My bad. All right.
So let me tell you exactly why.
Sorry. Fucking. I'm gonna exit out of this now. So before we transition, I want to show you guys real quick. So I'm also a twin. One of the things that I liked about the Hermon and Heroda page, being her, is that I'm also a twin. But my twin is hearing. Alright? I'm the deaf one and my twin is hearing. But I'm also a twin. And here's the other thing where I talk about, when I keep talking about the erasure of native signs, and I keep talking about cultural genocide against indigenous people, one of the things y'all need to understand is my father is indigenous descent. Thank you. Okie dokie. If you're Powhatan, say what's up. Now, here's the thing. Fucking, as twins, coming from a deaf family, deafness and twins both are genetic traits on both sides of our family, which I think is fascinating. Um, but even though I had a lot of deaf people in my family. Oops, my twin was hearing, right, and like I didn't have a lot of close connections, like I feel that them being deaf twins and having that connection together could have helped them be in a mental journey to better advocate as deaf people earlier on in life than where I was able to get to. Um, because like for example, with me and my twin, when we work together, everything is better. Like when we do business together, everything we do better. When we study together, we do better. When we work together, we do better. But when we're apart, we don't do as well. My twin and I, in my opinion, right? And so that's what I mean. Like the fact that having that twin connection, and I know not all twins, right? Because twins can have problems. Like me and my twin went 3 years without speaking. That's a different story. But it's not something that we don't pretend like didn't happen. Um, so being twin is a touchy thing. It's a special relationship that if you're not a twin, you don't understand. And I think that's why a lot of people try to romanticize and fetishize twins, because they feel insecure in their own validity of their own relationships, to where they have to project a label of an identity they don't have onto it. You know what I mean? Um, but the reason I got there was to say, to show you those pictures was on 2 points. When I talk about deaf representation, when we talk about deaf representation in America, it's often under the context of American Sign Language, but you can't talk about deaf representation without placing that in context of the cultural genocide of Native people first, and recognizing deaf natives first, in my opinion. And then secondly, I understand what it's like to be a twin. And I do believe that part of being a twin and having another, if you have a twin who is deaf as well and you're a deaf person, I think that is a superpower because both of you can fight together to articulate. You know what I mean? You have the other person who is able to corroborate and back you up versus when you're alone in the world and other people are gaslighting you about your life and no one else can say I live this life too. So fuck you. Um I do feel that is a superpower to have that, in my opinion. Being a twin is a blessing and a curse. Being a twin is such a blessing. Like, I love my twin. Um, it's only a curse because of social projections, because of social fetishizations. Like, I was telling some people, I thought I was so excited. I was like, my twin and I are finally reconnecting, and they made a joke about hooking up with us, and I was like, you're fucking disgusting. And they didn't get why I thought that it was so fucking disgusting. But so many people have this disgusting incest fantasy with twins that bothers me as well. And I do feel that's important. It's all connected because it's all connected to colonialism. Um, and deaf people are fetishized as well. Um, and so I do think also Hermon and Heroda, they have a double barrier of double fetishization, double oppression being deaf twins as well. It's a blessing and a curse. And we're not, people, when I talk about how being a twin is a blessing and a curse, people who aren't twins are like, you're fucking weird. No, it's not. And then they're over here like, I just had sex with my twin flame and my best friend is my twin now. And I'm just like, but that's just y'all. And then they'll be talking about how their best friend, that's their twin, has such a nice ass and they want to motorboat them. And I'm like, that's incest. Why are you normalizing vernacular which perpetuates incest and fetishization of that shit? It's disgusting to me. And I hate it. And when I talk about it, people gaslight the fuck out of me. But you know what? I'm going to keep saying that shit. Y'all disgust me. Anyway, I don't know how I got there. It's all connected. It's all connected for me. I understand if it's not for you because it's not your lived experience and you're like, why, how is this connected to being deaf? Because it's deaf identity and being a twin is connected for me because I'm a deaf person who is a twin. You know what I'm saying? And so it's my life. And so it connects to me for my lived experience. And I'm discussing it in this live stream because not to project my experience onto other twins, but to show seeing deaf twins means a lot to me for representation as a deaf person who is a twin. That's all I'm saying. All right. Thank you for joining me today. I'm fucking weird. Just to recap, today we talked about Christine's son, Kim. We talked about Hermon and Heroda being her. We talked about Rikki Poynter. We talked about how these three creators have advocated for themselves through different ways, through art, through content production, through storytelling, through fashion, through traveling. And for me, them putting their voices out there and showing other deaf that just because we are fighting oppression doesn't mean we can't also enjoy our fucking life means a lot to me. And I'm very grateful to them for continuing to do their thing. And I hope you go follow them, go support them. Why didn't I just get that? I'm going to repeat it. Go follow them, go support them. All right. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate you. I'm like, this is another one of those live streams where I'm like, I'm either sorry for this or you're welcome. I'm not sure yet, but yeah. Bye. Thanks for watching. Join the loyalty program at noladeafchild.com/loyalty and check in during live streams to get points for rewards.